Iran just targeted a military base in the middle of the Indian Ocean, nearly 5,000 kilometers away, confirmed by the Wall Street Journal. Here is the problem. For years, intelligence agencies agreed that Iranian missiles had a maximum reach of 2,000 kilometers. 2,000, not 5,000. Today, Iran hit a target twice as far as anyone believed they could reach. A base that has existed for 5 decades, never targeted once in its entire history, until today. But why reveal this capability now, on day 21? And what does Washington's response on the same day tell us? Well, let me explain. Disclaimer. Let us start with exactly what was confirmed today. The Wall Street Journal, citing multiple U.S. officials, reported that Iran launched ballistic systems toward Diego Garcia, the joint U.S.-UK military installation in the Indian Ocean. 2 systems were launched. One failed during flight. The other was engaged by a U.S. Navy destroyer using an interceptor system. A successful interception was not confirmed. That last detail matters. Not confirmed intercepted is not the same as confirmed missed. The distinction is important and deliberate in the way military communications are worded. What is confirmed is that Iran launched systems toward a target nearly 5,000 kilometers away, that Iran has systems capable of reaching that distance, and that a base which has existed for 5 decades through multiple conflicts, multiple operations, multiple periods of regional tension, was targeted for the first time in its history. Diego Garcia sits in the middle of the Indian Ocean. It is a British overseas territory hosting a joint US-UK military installation. And critically, because its location places it well outside what anyone assessed as the radius of any Iranian system, it has always been considered beyond the reach of this conflict. Until today. Most people watching this have never heard of Diego Garcia. And understanding why today matters requires understanding what this base actually is, because it is not a routine military installation. Diego Garcia is a small coral atoll, a ring of land barely above sea level, sitting in the central Indian Ocean, roughly equidistant between the eastern coast of Africa, the Indian subcontinent, and the coast of Australia. It is remote by design. Its value is precisely its location in the middle of an ocean, far from any coastline, far from any conventional threat. From Diego Garcia, the United States operates strategic bombers, the same B-52 aircraft that have been conducting operations against Iranian targets throughout this conflict. Nuclear-capable submarines operate from its waters. It functions as a logistics and staging hub for operations across an enormous geographic area spanning multiple continents and oceans. Its remoteness has always been its protection. A base that sits thousands of kilometers from any hostile coastline does not need the same layered defenses as a base closer to a conflict zone. The distance itself was the defense. The assumption that no adversary could reach it made extensive fortification unnecessary. That assumption was built into 5 decades of strategic planning. Every military operation the United States has conducted in the Indian Ocean and Persian Gulf region since the 1970s has depended in some way on Diego Garcia being safe. Safe from reach, safe from targeting, safe by virtue of distance. Today, that assumption was challenged in a way that cannot be unchallenged. Tell me in the comments, did you know Diego Garcia existed before today? Because when I understood what operates from that base and how central it is to U.S. operations across the entire Indian Ocean and Gulf region, the significance of today's targeting became immediately clear. Now here is the part of today's story that is causing the most significant recalculation in military and intelligence circles around the world. For years, not months, years, the publicly accepted assessment of Iranian ballistic capabilities placed a ceiling of approximately 2,000 kilometers on their reach. This was not a casual estimate. It was an assessment built on observable testing, satellite imagery analysis, intelligence reporting, and the professional judgment of analysts across multiple Western agencies. 2,000 kilometers covers a significant area. It includes Israel, the Gulf states, parts of South Asia, U.S. bases in the region. It was a range that required serious defensive planning. But it did not cover Diego Garcia. Diego Garcia sits at nearly 5,000 kilometers from Iranian territory. That distance placed it in a different category entirely, safely beyond what anyone assessed Iran could reach. A system capable of reaching 5,000 kilometers is not a medium-range ballistic system. It is what military classification calls an intermediate-range ballistic system, a fundamentally different category of capability, a category that Iran was not assessed to possess. Today, Iran demonstrated it possesses one, and the implications of that demonstration extend far beyond this conflict and far beyond Diego Garcia. A system with a 4,000 to 5,000 kilometer range does not just reach an island in the Indian Ocean. That same range, depending on launch point, begins to bring major European capitals into a potential radius that was previously considered completely outside the scope of Iranian capabilities. Paris is approximately 4,000 kilometers from western Iran. London is approximately 5,000 kilometers. These are cities that have never had to include Iranian ballistic capabilities in their security planning. Today's demonstration changes that calculation, not necessarily in terms of intent, but in terms of what is now known to be technically possible. One analyst put it precisely today. Diego Garcia was not just a target, it was a message. And that message landed on every defense ministry, every intelligence agency, and every military planning team that has been building its assumptions on the 2,000-kilometer ceiling. Now here is the strategic layer that explains why this happened today, specifically on day 21 of this conflict, rather than on day 1 or day 10. Looking at the sequence of capability revelations across this conflict, a pattern becomes visible. In the first week, Iran deployed the systems it was already known to have: drone operations, cruise systems, ballistic projectiles in the known range, the capabilities that intelligence agencies had already assessed and planned for. In the second week, the Sejil solid fuel system was deployed for the first time, a capability that was known to exist but had never been used in a live conflict. Then the stealth aircraft was reached, a capability that was not known to exist at that level of sophistication. And now, in the third week, a range capability twice what anyone assessed, demonstrated against a target nobody believed was reachable. This is not random escalation, this is a deliberate sequencing. Each week, a higher ceiling is demonstrated. Each week, the other side discovers that what they thought was the limit of Iranian capability was not the limit. Each week, the question that no one can answer with confidence gets harder. What comes next? That uncertainty, the inability to define the ceiling with confidence, is itself a strategic tool. It forces the other side to plan for scenarios that cannot be bounded. It makes every assumption about what is safe and what is reachable subject to revision. And it creates pressure that operates independently of any specific strike. Iran demonstrating a range twice what intelligence agencies assessed. Does that change how you understand this conflict? Because when you see the sequence of capability revelations across 3 weeks, the pattern becomes very clear. Tell me your thoughts in the comments below. And now here is the final piece of today's picture. Because the Diego Garcia targeting did not happen in a vacuum. It happened on the same day as a decision from Washington that tells you exactly how the other side is reading the current state of this conflict. The U.S. Treasury Department announced today that it is lifting oil sanctions on Iranian crude oil currently at sea, issuing an authorization permitting the sale of Iranian crude and refined products, including into the United States itself. A country that has not purchased Iranian oil since 1996, just authorized doing so in the middle of a conflict with Iran. The stated rationale was to bring approximately 140 million barrels of oil to global markets to help stabilize energy prices disrupted by this conflict. The practical effect is that Iran receives oil revenue that sanctions had been designed to deny it. Iran's response was to decline the offer. Its foreign minister stated that Iran has no surplus crude oil available for international markets, which in diplomatic terms is a refusal delivered as a logistical statement. And then, within the same afternoon, Trump stated at 3:43 p.m. that he did not want a ceasefire. At 5:13 p.m., 90 minutes later, he stated the U.S. was considering winding down its military efforts. Between those two statements, the S&P 500 rose nearly 1% on no announced news. The same day, Iran demonstrated a missile range nobody knew it had. The country in conflict with it lifted oil sanctions, got declined, and within 90 minutes shifted from no ceasefire to considering winding down. You do not need commentary on that sequence. The sequence is the commentary. But what is your opinion on this? Comment down below. If you are curious to find more, then make sure to click on one of the videos you see on the screen. And with that, we come to the end of this video. If you enjoyed the video, then turn on the notifications bell on this channel. Also, please share this video with as many people as possible. Let's get this news out there.